Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Jazz Marie, aka Bevnaforo. So previously on the podcast, I was showing you around Sky Island Journal. Yeah, just a tour of their website, their guidelines, and spending quite a bit of time going through their FAQ page as an example for you guys, who are looking to maybe start your own lit mag or journal, one day, or it could be press. I've covered again on this podcast a wide array of different literary magazines, journals, and presses from different parts of the world. And also, if you go back into the earlier episodes and some of the middle episodes sprinkled about, right, I've done some Q&A type episodes around submitter type questions, or even questions, publishers, may have, or future publishers looking to start their own literary magazine or press, just sharing my experience running Dippity Lit Mag and, how I started it, and also later on Dippity Press, yeah. So yeah, I hope these episodes are helping you. And today might be a little bit of a recap episode, predominantly. In episode 16, I apologize, correction, episode 16, not 15, as I stated a couple episodes back or previous, right? That's where I initially discussed the benefits of being a member of CLMP, the community of literary magazines and presses. So yeah, if you're interested, listen to 16, that audio version, but I'm going to do a video screen recording here, which you can watch out on Spotify and YouTube and elsewhere, of discussing, CLMP a little bit further, because I think it helps when you're able to see my screen. And of course, I'm just going to go on the publicly accessible pages with you guys, not going to go into any of the member, only access sections at all. Yeah. So again, the literary magazine I founded, right, Dippity Lit Mag, right? We're part of CLMP, the membership. So I would say it. I mentioned this on the podcast yet. I'd recommend looking into getting the membership. And there are some qualifications again, or criteria rather, you have to meet for your website and the structure of it, right? You have to have, as I said, in the past episode, as I showed you, a visible mission statement. You have to really do all that. Several of the lit mags and journals that I've covered on this podcast, and perhaps presses, even some of them, not all, are part of the CLMP membership. Yeah. So yeah, let's get started. Again, some of this might be a repeat or recap of some information from episode 16, but I think it helps to have background info if this, in case it's the first episode you're tuning into. So yeah, you can see here they have this Google Maps page, right? CLMP members showing December 2023. I don't think the date has been updated here, but in any case, you can see, very global, community, absolutely, all over the world, right? And I think that's what's really cool about CLMP. Again, I'm just going to quote off of their website in regards to, the work they do, their mission, and everything like that. So CLMP, originally was founded as the Coordinating Council of Literary Magazines in 1967 on April 1st, 2015. And CLMP, since becoming known as the Council of Literary Magazines and Presses, rebranded as the Community of Literary Magazines and Presses to better reflect how they serve their mission. CLMP's membership of more than 1,000 organizations incorporates a wide diversity of publishers, those with budgets of less than 5,000 to those of more than 4 million, those working in large cities, rural areas, and every place in between, and those representing an astounding array of aesthetic and editorial literary missions. CLMP has informed funders and other arts groups about literary publishing's role in American culture, conducted research about the field, and ensured that literature has an active voice in the politics of cultural policy. Since 1997, CLMP has administered the NYSCA New York State Technical Assistance Program, NYSCA NYTAP for NYS Independent Literary Publishers, a series of outreach and organizational development services that serves more than 150 publishers annually. CLMP's core programs and services include direct technical assistance provided through workshops, one-on-one mentorships, and phone and email consultations. www.clmp.org, CLMP's primary portal to information and resources, and roundtables, clinics, conferences, online discussions, and networking sessions. Through these, CLMP provides guidance and instruction in such areas as marketing, audience development, business management, and fundraising, and facilitates relationship building between independent literary publishers and other communities of literary stakeholders. Yeah, so that's awesome. They've been around a very, very long time, and it's very cool, to see that. I think I shared on this podcast, right? You may have seen, right? A lot of these lit mags and presses, right? That I'm covering, part of the CLMP membership. A huge benefit of it is getting discounts too. You get discounts on a lot of really cool platforms and services. You're even introduced to some new tools in terms of technology or even submission management systems. So yeah, again, I wasn't introduced to Subfolio through CLMP or even Dapple. Dapple again, I'd come across because they followed me on social media, and then Subfolio actually, I had discovered that when I received an email about it. And I was like, from the founder of it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. What's being created, and totally. And I, was really just really cool. Submittable. A lot of literary magazines and journals I've covered on this podcast are currently on Submittable, right? And they get a very beneficial discount rate, part of the CLMP membership program, because without that, right, it's just not affordable. No way, outside of the CLMP membership plan, right? I received this email. I know fellow editors or those who are looking to start their own lit mag journal were quoted this, right? So outside of the CLMP membership, for literary organizations, right? Their plans start at a minimum of $10,000, guys. $10,000. That is insanely high, right? Very, very you just become shocked because Submittable. It's a submission management system. It's it has a lot of functionality, right? And absolutely, I think Submittable's annual revenue, I think I shared in the podcast, is something like 66 million in 2024. I could be wrong on those numbers. So, anyways, yeah, it's a very expensive submission management system. So, the CLMP membership, right? For example, like Dippy Litmag, when I was on Submittable, for a little over 2 years, we were paying $29 a month because just $29 a month because we were on the CLMP membership program. So what that works out to be, with the CLMP membership being, based on your, I think revenue or the what your lit mag or journal generates, and I'll show you here in a little bit. But we were paying $125 annually for a CLMP membership, and then on top of that, right, $29 a month for Submittable at the discounted rate, a month, 29 bucks a month. And yeah, that's not too bad. It's not $10,000 a year. So that's a massive discount, right? So yeah, I think if you absolutely are, looking to get on Submittable, the CLMP membership is absolutely, I think, worth it considering the discounts you get and the access to resources and the knowledge exchange events and sessions are very valuable. Now, we left Submittable again for Subfolio, but however, Subfolio has also, I think if you go on their website, it shows, CLMP is listed there, right? They're aware of Subfolio and other submission management systems, right? Like Dapple, for instance, you get a discount, if you're a CLMP member, right? At Dapple's website, it covered that. So yeah, totally. If you're interested in Subfolio or some of the other, new submission management systems I've been covering, discussing my thoughts on them, listen back to those episodes again. Yeah, because I think, again, every place is using a different platforms, different distribution services, even, right? Or things like that. And CLMP, again, as I shared, I think it was, what episode was it, guys? I think it was in the 50s or no 60s. So yeah, episode 67, where I was covering what distribution options exist for literary magazines and presses, right? I was showing you that public page that CLMP has on, the various places that presses and, lit mags go through for distribution, help, or some are doing self, just using, self distribution or just through their site, because not everyone's able to get on distribution platforms, but nevertheless, or not everyone's able to get on board with, Astros and Books or other places, but that list again that they have, right, it has a number of other ones and names there, right? Or how others are handling the distribution of their issues or their book publications, right? So yeah, let me go here for you guys and show you here. So they have, various funds, and incubator products, which we'll check. But here under programs and opportunities, right? And we'll go through the rest of the site in a bit here. The Firecracker Awards, the Constellation Awards. So we click on that, right? So this is really cool award event they have. I'm not going to read every bit of it. However, there is an entry fee of $65, but $55 for CLMP members, right? So there is a cash award, right? That each winner in book categories receives, right, $2,000, $1,000 for the press, and $1,000 for the author or translator. Each winner in the magazine categories receives $1,000. So that's really nice. It's always cool to see the Firecracker Award selections. The window, right, for this year is September 15th to November 14th, 2025. And I have entered Deputy in the Firecrackers Awards. I have entered Deputy in the Firecracker Awards, I think a year ago, or yeah. And I think it was 2023, or a little over a year ago. I'm not going to be able to enter or I haven't been able to enter the past 2 years, just because very, very tight in terms of budget. But I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously, every bit helps. Funding is hard to receive. If you're not a nonprofit, there aren't a ton of opportunities out there, I'd say, that I've come across, for, lit mags and presses. There are some, but not a bunch. So things like this, the Firecracker Awards are really nice. They also have, the categories, right, for this, right, as fiction, creative nonfiction, poetry, magazines, general excellence, and magazines, or, best debut, right, magazines. So yeah, you can read more about this. They have the judges, and you can even read about, past award winners, right, and the archive, which is really cool to see. And yeah, I think even just going through this is another great way, again, to find, some more lit magazine journals and presses in existence too. So you can see they've done this since, it looks like, about 2015, right? The Firecracker Awards. And cash award prizes can change over time, and things like that. And, just keep that in mind. But yeah. They also have the Constellation Award, right? I have not entered that, but the annual $10,000 Constellation Award is given to honor an independent literary press that champions the writing of people of color, including Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and Asian American and Pacific Islander individuals, for excellence in publishing. The award is underwritten by Penguin Random House, and applications for the 2026 award will be accepted through November 7th, 2025. And then they announce the winner in January 2026. So yeah, they have the eligibility requirements here, right? I won't go through all of it, but obviously you can see it on my screen if you're watching the video again out on YouTube or Spotify or elsewhere. And I think this is awesome that they do that, right? And you can see at the bottom right, they have, various partnerships here, right? And things like that, right? And you can see Amazon Literary Partnership, Harper Perennial, and Dewey Media Group, several others, right? Penguin Random House, So yeah, it's I think a great resource. Whether you're a publisher or not, CLMP is a great resource, or you should absolutely bookmark their website. Especially if you're looking to submit your work to places or want to learn more about a place you're submitting to. It's a good way. Now, again, some of the directories of publishers, some of the listings, I think there might be information that isn't current as of 2025. But so just an example. So I covered only poems on this podcast, right? Just a couple episodes back, and this is their old logo, I believe, and old website page preview, right? And of their site. And you can see here it says Blacksburg, Virginia. So, currently I believe it's Ontario, Canada. So I don't know if there was a relocation, or sometimes editors move or relocate or things change. But nevertheless, you can see, right? These listings, even I have to go in and update our listing from time to time. It's tricky. We have a couple different listings that we monitor as founding editors, or it could be chill subs, right? CLMP, if we're if you're a member of CLMP, right? And Duotrope, right? But Duotrope has a team that oversees those listings and helps keep them updated. But the CLMP listing, chill subs listings, right? That's on the editor to really update those. Yeah. But yeah, you can find information on publishers here. So the directory of publishers is absolutely a phenomenal section on their site. You can see it's alphabetical, sorting. You can filter by publication type: chapbook, digital, magazine, online, press. You can filter by genre: audio, right? Fiction, horror, thriller, suspense, right? It's October, so totally. Let's check out what's there just because it's October, right? So yeah, there's a lot of really cool presses. Yeah, there's new names as I'm speaking that I've never heard about. Very cool, right? Burial Books, Blood Plus Honey. Not all of these may be, um, active. There are times it takes a while, I think, for some defunct lit mags and journals or presses to be removed, I think, from directories or to be updated or things like that. So just keep that in mind. I know Chill Subs has a tagging, for that when that happens, but I'm not sure about CLMP when that happens. But I'm sure they, keep things updated as much as possible. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And yeah, so you can, there's a page navigation at the bottom, and very cool. So yeah, I highly recommend you bookmark CLMP. It is a great resource. Absolutely, you can find magazines and online publishers by name, city, state, right? So it's very, very, very useful. Absolutely. So yeah, just an example. I'll search for my lit mag in here. I'll just type Dippity, right, for you guys so you can see. And yeah, there we are, Dippity Lit Mag, right? And yeah, so you can find a lot of really great literary magazines and presses through here. And yeah, so it's very beneficial, as a publisher, to be in the directory and a member of CLMP, right? Others could discover you through it. On this podcast, I've covered, how to find lit mags and journals, right? The other directories that exist, right? Poets and Writers has a directory as well, listings that they maintain, and even too, yeah. So what else, guys? So they even have a section for, under about independent publishing for booksellers and librarians. And yeah, so it says they are dedicated to helping bookstores and libraries carry and spotlight books published by independent literary publishers. The following resources are designed to help booksellers and libraries stay abreast of what's happening with indie presses and literary magazines. So yeah, they have Indie Lit on the Shelf, right? CLMP's monthly newsletter for booksellers, which features roundups of award-winning and top-selling books from the small press literary world. They have themed roundups for bookstores and libraries, right? And publisher spotlights, right? CLMP regularly publishes Q&As with independent literary magazines and presses, and new books from indie presses and new magazine issues, right? So yeah, it is beneficial, absolutely. They have a wonderful newsletter and a really cool roundup, that they do too. Let's go into, the roundup of July, just an example. So you can see this, right? So this is really cool what they do, right? Sharing issues like this in the roundup and everything. I think that's really nice, it's really cool to, be informed of that, right? So yeah, these roundups they do of magazines, right, and releases are really cool. We were in, I think, the December 2024 roundup, for example. We are again doing a relaunch of our Lit Mag series, but just an example of what it looks like. So you can like enter in a form to them, right? The publication details, when it's released, and all of that, right, for that month, the upcoming magazine issue. And yeah, so that was back in December 2024. You can see issue 5 of Dippity Lit Mag, Whisker Factory. So yeah, and then yeah, they have other ones here. So it's a really, really beneficial, right? And a great way again to discover more lit mags and journals. And these are all public pages, right? The roundup. So it's really cool. I love seeing the cover art and in these. It's a really, really awesome again. So really great. Yeah. And then they have filtering here, right? So member spotlights, if we click on that, right? So they do some really great spotlights too, and interviews even, right? So you can see they have done interviews with in the past. I don't think they do those as much anymore based on this, but I know they have a lot of really great info sessions that they conduct, right? And meetups, totally, and calls, and discussions. But yeah, I love the news and updates. Absolutely, that's very helpful. Stay in the loop on everything, and yeah, so it's really beneficial to become a member and to subscribe even to their newsletter. It's a really great resource, absolutely. And they have some cool reading list, and yeah, even as a lit mag or journal or press, right? As I showed you on some of these podcast episodes, right? Totally, you can make a reading list yourself too, if you'd like. For those who follow or subscribe to your lit mag journal, like we did one at Dippy Lit Mag for like fall or October, and yeah, not necessarily purely horror themed, but just recommended reads. Our volunteer staff put in some suggestions. I put suggestions in, and we made our own list too. But I love the list that CLMP makes as well. They're very cool. Again, so how these lists come to be, right? CLMP, right? Typically sends out to members, right? Let us know about any publications, for Pride Month, for Jewish American Heritage Month, for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, for Disability Pride Month, right? So I really like the reading lists they do. I absolutely love seeing those. Again, I think we were on this one July 1st, 2025. So just an example of just scrolling through so you can see what their reading list looks like. And it's very cool again. And yeah, so yeah, there's one of ours, right? Dippity Literary Magazine. We've shortened our name now, so it's Dippity Lit Mag. But yeah, so that's cool, right? And you can see, so yeah, you can put any publications in the past or ones that haven't been on a reading list before, even, right? I think that's nice to be able to do that, right? And just sharing the work even more, that was published. I think that's great. So yeah, we have one from 2025 and 2023, right, for disability, the Disability Pride Month list, yeah. And yeah, so I liked how they put the digital collages, and and yeah, even some of the cover art is really beautiful again. So I love how they have everything organized and laid out here. And you can read the poem, the essays, right? It's a great way to find even more reads or discover more lit mags and journals, right? Again, and yeah, so they have a lot of various lists throughout the month, Women in Translation Month, and yeah, so CLMP members, right, Lit Magistros and Presses, they send or enter in a form, right, the links, the information about the work, or, off to them, right? Right. And sometimes they have forms for some of these, events or activities they're doing. And sometimes it's just, communications back, to a team member on CLMP, right? So, yeah, really cool. I won't go through every single thing on their site, but just some of the, again, public pages. Absolutely. So yeah, totally check out those roundups. I think there are a lot of really stellar publications, right? And then again, I covered the closure of small press distribution, as I mentioned just earlier. You may want to listen back to that episode. I was sharing, some of the ones I was aware of, and just my thoughts on distribution in general for lit mags and presses. We're not part of any distribution, space or platform or service in existence to date. Aside from just digital subscription platforms, and yeah, but you can totally listen back to episode 67, episode 63, and yeah, those may help you, even 62 on, digital publishing, right? And, I was covering a little bit talking about subscriptions, in episode 20, and PDF readers in 33, so that totally, those episodes may help you, if you're looking to start your own Lit Mag Journal Press, covered some on the list and also some that weren't on their list, I believe, in terms of distribution. And yeah, I think this is very helpful. Again, what they've done, the again, I think this is very beneficial what they've done, right? The SPD publisher distribution list. So Astros and Books, right? I did an episode again on them, so you can listen back to that if you're curious. Yeah. So again, not everyone can get on board with every distributor, right? So there's a vetting process for most places out there, but there are various ways you can distribute magazines and issues and book publications without going through a distributor, right? And yeah, so I covered some of the various ways you could facilitate getting help with the shipping of your issues and things like that, and printing, right? Even drop shipping exists, right? Itasca Books or Bookmobile, right? So there are various places that help with inventory management and all of that, right? Sending it off to them to do all the shipping and handling of it, right? And the order processing. So yeah, so that's awesome. Again, they have, their history, right, section here. So it says they, again, feature short essays about many publishers that have contributed to the collective story of independent publishing in the country, right? So yeah, US and yeah, and stats. So yeah, this is again the 2023 board Google Maps again that they did, and CLMP their HQ is in New York if I recall, and yeah, so that's awesome, and yeah. What else, guys? So I won't go through their staff and board or some of the other things, but not everything. But just know that the interactions I've had with the CLMP team has been nothing but awesome. They've been always responsive and helpful. So I think it is great. If you ever run into something, you're like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And they will point you in the direction, of like where to go, maybe who may know, they'll maybe ask or reach out to fellow, founding editors of lit mags and journals and presses that you could, swap information with. And it could be something in regards to, hey, we're trying to draft a contractual agreement around art or for a press even, or, could I see, is there an example that I can look at? And fellow editors and or those running one totally are willing to share what theirs looks like, or even talk to you or meet up with you maybe in a call and help you draft that out, because it's important. And a lot of editors know, and yeah, that it's hard starting up and to get going. And I think I really like seeing that support that others offer in the community and things like that. Yeah, even if you don't attend all of their info sessions or meetings, it helps to, stay in the loop on, their newsletter, to be aware, to, their directory is very, very useful. And especially, if we go, let's see here, where is it, guys? Oh yeah, so calls for submissions. So yeah, this is great. That they let publishers post some opportunities that they have. Perhaps not every single call in existence, but that's what a submission management system is very useful for, right? Having all of your calls and windows and the deadlines there. But this is nice. I think especially for announcing you're open for submissions. When you're a member of CLMP, and this is a great way. Submitters, can find calls too, as I've covered on this podcast again. When I was sharing, how to find, opportunities and discover more places, right? And, in episode 2, I covered, how to find lit magazine journals. And then episode 51, I covered a little bit more in depth, right? Showing, I think, my screen in that episode. And, just looking for places that are, again, fee-free. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Not all of these in the directory or listing are 100% fee-free or anything like that. But you will come across, sometimes contests that have no fees and things like that. There are ways to filter, as I showed you on those episodes. You can listen back again, especially 51 on that, right? On how to search and filter and find more publications to submit to. So yeah, really like this section. Most recently this year, it's the first time I've really used this section. I really like it. You just have to remember, of course, to update, right, wherever you're posting something, if you extend a deadline or call or something like that, right? And yeah, so I think this is really nice. You can see the expiration time and all of that, right? And yeah, so I can click on one of these, I guess, yeah. So you can see they have this one here, right? So call for submission, just an example, right? So the requirements, all of it is listed out and things like that. Obviously, you want to, of course, double check the website of any Lit Mag Journal Press, too. And yeah, but I think this is nice. You can see submissions open, right? And yeah, Rooted Literary Magazine, right? Halloween, right? This October, right? A lot of Halloween publications, horror theme publications, absolutely. So very fun to see that. Yeah. So the formatting guidelines, right, is another place to find that stuff. The submission window, who's the editor in chief, I think it's very beneficial, right? So yeah, again, always just double check the website. Sometimes deadlines and things change or extended, but I think this is very cool to see, right? And yeah, so it can be great, if you have like a major call going out, or you just started your Lit Mag journal. It can be a great way to have that listed, right? And CLMP also shares on their social media channels, again, they're, from the reading list and roundups, even, right? So that's really cool. And they, across their channels and the social media, they will post these, some of the opportunities or places that are open or things of that nature, right? So that's really great. So yeah, you can filter by genre, right? Translation, poetry, right? Art, nonfiction, online magazines, right? So yeah, I'm on translation now and toggling on art, right? So yeah, online press, print and online magazine, right? Yeah, print and online magazine, right? And press, you can filter. So it's really useful, right, to find places. So yeah, when you become a member, right, you have the ability to add, a call for submissions. If you're just on, if you're not a member and you're going on the public pages and you click on something, you might run into a member only access page, and they're like, oh, So it is beneficial to become a member because they have some great resources, absolutely. Especially in terms of funding for publishers, right? So, for example, right, Chill Slips had that incubator project. The deadline has passed now; they've made the selections, but yeah, it was a incubator project, right? So they gave 5 literary magazines $1,000. CLMP partnered with Chill Subs, which was really cool. So things like that, and you can see, right, the winners of that, right, on Chill Subs blog, right, which is really cool, right, to see that, right, yeah. And yeah, so I think such events like that are very neat to see. And yeah, so I was just scrolling through for you guys so you could see. But yeah, you can read more about that if you're curious. Again, and if we go back to funding for publishers, right? So I won't go through every single thing, but they have grants, and various funds, right? The Literary Arts Emergency Fund, the Small Press Future Fund, and things in the past also, right? Perhaps, and yeah, the Literary Magazine Fund, and yeah. So they had, an application window for this, right? And again, just keep in mind, right? It states here applicants must be registered nonprofits. So yeah, again, as I covered on this podcast, I think it was just a couple episodes back, right? Episode 78, I was just discussing like the things to take in consideration with becoming a nonprofit. The Lit Mag and Press I run, we're not a nonprofit at this time, and I discussed a little bit why. Yeah, and to share some other, founding editors blog posts on that, around that topic. But yeah, a lot of opportunities in terms of funding, opportunities and windows for, funds and things are geared towards more nonprofits, but occasionally they're totally, in CLP's newsletter, I've seen from time to time opportunities for places that aren't nonprofits, right? However, you still have to meet some theme requirements, right? As I mentioned, like some opportunities I think were strictly for fiction only publications or presses, I mean. And yeah, so things like that. But yeah, so there's the Amazon Literary Partnership and the Literary Magazine Fund. So since 2009, right, the Amazon Literary Partnership has provided 16 million in grants to more than 150 organizations. And yeah, again, grants are for nonprofit literary organizations on an annual basis. And ALP offers grants ranging from $5,000 to $20,000. And yeah, so you have to read very carefully the eligibility requirements for anything you apply to, of course. But yeah, totally. You can dig around more on these pages. I won't, go into every single one, but just showing you around a little bit on the public pages. Yeah. And yeah, so just read very carefully, the eligibility requirements and the, grant opportunities, right? And anything like that you come into contact with, right? I think it is very cool that they have facilitated a lot of really great partnerships and also inform others of the other grant opportunities and organizations out there helping lit magazine presses, right? Because it's hard. It is hard to stay afloat. We all know, funding and things like that. It's hard. Every bit helps. Yeah. So again, most of the funding opportunities are for nonprofits, but a CMP has some resources. If you reach out to them on, what for the whole nonprofit process, and even you could pick the brain of even some other editors, right, in terms of things they've gone through maybe in the process of the nonprofit application status, and applying to become a nonprofit, right, on all of that, and what their experience was like, or things to really do for that, because there's a lot of compliance you have to do every year for that if you're going to maintain that status, right? And yeah, you want to be mindful about again any there are penalties and things like that, as I mentioned, right? If you are not on top of everything, you're very organized in terms of financial records and stuff like that. So yeah, so programs and opportunities, we covered the Firecracker Awards, the Constellation Award. There are other awards for publishers as well, for presses. And yeah, so you can scroll through these. There's a bunch, right? They have it organized by month even. So that's really cool, right? So you can see here there are some Canadian ones here, United States, and I'm sure there are international ones, yeah, across the board here. So really cool, yeah, for literary magazines. And again, yeah, so it's a great way to look into more, again, award events that you can enter, right? And yeah, some do have entry fees and some don't, as you see here, right? Like the translation prize, right, for French to English translations, right? French American Foundation, presented by them, right? There's no entry fee for that one, right? For January, right? It looks like that one that happened. It could be an ongoing one. I'm not sure, but yeah. Yeah, so some of these have entry fees and some of them don't have entry fees, as you can see here, which is nice, yeah. Yeah, so that's great. And yeah, so again, you should always visit the sponsoring organization's website for the updated information and exact deadlines and details. You always want to be mindful about that, so always a good idea. And yeah, so something I really like too, we're not part of this, but they have a really awesome Lit Mag adoption program. So if teachers are interested in introducing a literary magazine essentially into their classroom, they have this program, right, where there's a course essentially around that, right? So um, so it states here, I'm just quoting off their site, right? So, meetings virtually with editors and publishers, when 6 or more students in a class subscribe to a single magazine, a publisher or editor from that magazine will make a virtual or in person, where possible, visit to that class and hear directly why magazine staff published what they did, discuss how lit mag publishing happens, and learn about best practices for submitting creative work. Now, yeah, so it's promoting a new generation of readers. Most poetry, short fiction, and creative nonfiction by emerging writers first finds its way into print through literary magazines, yet few student writers actively engage with the spectrum of magazines published today. By integrating literary magazines into course curricula, teachers encourage a generation of new writers who are also engaged readers and citizens in an active literary community. So that's really cool, yeah. And yeah, so you can see participating magazines and their subscription costs. So you have to have a subscription set up, I think absolutely for this. And yeah, Friction is there. and Full Bleed, and Hypertext Review. So yeah, some really cool publications. Absolutely love the cover art again. Yeah, so this is, I think, a really great opportunity for educating others. And who knows? Students may be inspired to start their own lit mag or journal totally one day. I think that's nice, to get some insight into the world of literary magazines and presses. I love seeing places that facilitate workshops or classes or events around it. The whole lit mag world and press community, right? It's very cool, right? So yeah, just in the Only Poems episode again, I was sharing, right, how they do workshops and sessions too. So if you're not in the lit mag adoption program even, right, you totally could start up your own sessions and workshops, and do some great sessions to help others too, or things like that, right? Only Poems does MFA help, right, even things like that. And some lit mags I've covered even, right, high school student ran, they have that whole program, right, for having high school students involved in how to start their own literary magazine, journal, press, even or behind the scenes of what goes into it. They get those they get programs, right, to partake in, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, so it says here, a custom code for students, which initiates a 1 year subscription at 20 to 50% off its usual price. They link to a digital portfolio of essays on how to best use lit mags in the classroom, even I think for teachers and things like that, right? So that's really cool, yeah. And yeah, so totally, I think again, just goes to show you, right, reiterating, right, to I think again, exposing others to literary magazines, or the importance of, them at an early age, is absolutely important too, and yeah. So I really again love the so yeah, again, I love seeing places introduce, learning and educational programs, So I think CLMP does a great job with all their workshop sessions and the Lit Mag adoption program. You can read more about it. Totally, I haven't read everything, on it for you guys on this podcast, but yeah, you can totally. I think that's really cool. Again, yeah, that they have that, and other lit magazine journals too, they have some classroom programs, right? I shared with you, I think 32 Poems was one, and then Polyphony Lit again, they have that apprenticeship program, and yeah, and a couple other educational offerings and things, right? Totally. So I think that's great. The editorial training and apprenticeship programs like Polyphony Lit has, and then 32 Poems I think has a classroom a classroom event as well. That they did. Yeah, so 32 classrooms, right? So if you remember on this podcast, and I shared, um, 32 Poems has a partnership, right, with high school and undergraduate instructors to introduce writers to contemporary poetry and the practice of literary editing, right? So I think that's really nice. But yeah, so yeah, there are a lot of really great things happening in the Lit Mag world in terms of educating students and introducing literary magazines into the classroom space. It's very, very valuable, absolutely. So, yeah, very, very awesome again. Yeah, so you can look into that and read about it, But you just keep in mind, again, it's, yeah, it's applicable, right, to, again, when, six or more students in a class subscribe to a single magazine. And then the teacher, of course, has to, be interested in having that, incorporated into their classroom as like a virtual, classes, right, and curricula, right? Yeah, and learning, yeah. And yeah, so then it has a link, CLMP member Lit Mags, to become a part of the Lit Mag adoption catalog, right? Right. It takes you, there's again, you'll run into this sometimes, right, on CLMP, right, where it's member only access. So, right, so this is an example of a page just showing you, right? So it would show you, right, how would you go about joining the Lit Mag adoption catalog, right? And yeah, if you meet the requirements of it and all of it, right? You have a subscription, and six or more, right? Students have subscribed to your magazine through the subscription, and a teacher has expressed interest of sharing that in the classroom. The literary magazine, and having the editor or a publisher, teaching the class about it and learning more, right? On Yeah, I think it's really cool. So, yeah, lots of, programs and opportunities and funding events, across the year. So there's absolutely a lot that goes on. Yeah. And, yeah, they have diversity, equity, inclusion, resources. And, like, for example, this year they had, again, and every year, the Brooklyn Book Festival, I think it's really nice. They had this thing, right, where, founding editors, of, color, right, even could send in issues or publications, right, to give away at the Brooklyn Book Festival. So that was really nice, to be able to do that. I think that's awesome. Yeah, because of course, can't physically attend myself or anything like that. Although I have family in Brooklyn, New York, but I couldn't physically attend myself. And I think that's nice that they do that on behalf of Lit Magazine Presses, right? And yeah, and those table events are really cool. It can, it can be a great way to, marketing event essentially, right? Sharing and getting your publications, that you've done through your Lit Journal Press, getting the work and publications into more hands, and sharing about its existence even more, right? And yeah, so love the events they do. They have also meetup events for editors of color, and yeah, in regards to their news and features, again, their newsletters. So just some things, like I'll share with you an example. I won't pull it up on my screen, but just will talk you through, right? So like in the indie lit updates, right, we get a lot of really cool, again, reading lists. We get information on new magazine issues that are out. We get some information on even like things happening in the community in regards to AI, right? There are a lot of like lawsuits and legal things happening in the world around that, right? And yeah, so it's been a topic, right? And the whole thing about opting in, opting out, things like that, right? And yeah, of various publishing tools and platforms and spaces, and the importance of being aware of things like that. And yeah, of course, awards, and then any new CLMP members, right? So we get information on those who join CLMP, new publications to check out even in the newsletters, which is really nice. And yeah, and then there's even, I think, ads and funders that we see even in the newsletter, right? It could be on submission managed systems that are starting up, or new platforms or services to check out, or discounts that are offered to us, right? If for those who are part of the CLMP membership, Dual Suma has, I believe, a discount, right, through CLMP, right? Submission managed systems, right? CLMP membership discounts. So DAPL, Dual Suma, Submittable, right? You get discounts on those. Subfolio, our bill didn't change, with leaving Submittable, right? We're still at $29 a month, on Subfolio, and that's great. But yeah, so you can be really informed on a lot of things, and they have some great info sessions and meeting events that you can just join, like on a Zoom call, or a virtual call with them, and really connect with others, right? Yeah, and then member updates. So they do member updates, right? And news from the field. They, like, recently there was a thing about some settlements happening over AI, and the all of that is very messy, right? And things like that. So staying informed about that, right? I think it's so important about the community of that, and the challenges of the whole AI mess that's happening in the world, right? And there are pros and cons, again, to yeah, the whole AI, usage, right, in the world, right, it affects, Litmags and presses and publishers, absolutely, right, and content scraping is a huge problem, right. Yeah, as you see, on this podcast that I shared, a lot of Litmags and journals, right, have no AI policies, right, majority of them, absolutely, or nearly all that I've covered, and yeah, so yeah, no AI created work and things like that. So yeah, and then yeah, so there are updates, right, from publishers on in terms of awards and things like that. And yeah, they do member spotlights again on publishers, and they have monthly meetup events, right, on Zoom calls where you can ask questions, really network with others. And they have university-based publisher discussion groups, again, editors of color meetups, right, to discuss any various situations others are running into, or anything like that. It's good to be informed, right? And even some great sessions on how to pitch Poets and Writers magazine, facilitated that, right? I think the editor in chief, right? So things around that, some educational sessions, right? Totally, and Q&As. And yeah, so yeah, it's really great to be a member of CLMP. You can really keep in the loop on things. Yeah, and they also, again, always remind about job openings and things like that. So yeah, if you're looking to develop a staff, for your Lit Mag Journal Press, right? The great thing about CMP, right? You can tell them, hey, we have these job openings or volunteer openings, and we're looking to get applicants to it. So that what they'll do, they'll post it on their job board here, jobs with publishers. This is also good, So yeah, if you're looking for opportunities to work at a publisher, or to join a staff, totally, I would really recommend this page. But as a founding editor, if you have job openings, or you're trying to create a staff or a team, and you are part of the CMP membership, you can be like, hey, we have these openings, and they'll post them here, and even share, it gets linked out in their newsletter, and things like that. Places that are hiring, they'll share on their social media and things like that, right? So you can see their volunteer openings, right, listed here. And yeah, we've totally informed them in the past sometimes of the openings we've had. Or sometimes Lit Magazine Journals, they also post calls or intake applications through their submission management system too. But sometimes places just ask via email, right, for applications. So it varies. But yeah, you can see there are some paid salaried openings, volunteer, unpaid ones. And yeah, so, if you're looking to grow a staff, or to seek others out, to get on board on your team, this is a great way for others to find and discover opportunities, right? Work opportunities, absolutely, right? As I've covered in this podcast, how to find and apply to be a reader, and what's it like being a reader. I have some episodes discussing that, what's it like on a reading team, a little bit from me having a reading team, and shared on this podcast. Yeah, so yeah, you can find that in the earlier episodes of this podcast. But yeah, very awesome. Again, you can see there's a lot of really cool openings, absolutely volunteer paid, all hourly ones. Some have set hours, some don't, and yeah, so you just read very carefully, of course. But yeah, if you're looking, I think this is also beneficial. So if you've never written like a if you're not sure, like, what a role entails fully, or something like that, or if you've never written a job description of some kind, and you're starting your own Lit Mag Journal, this is a good way to see examples of, like, the structure of some roles on a literary magazine or press, or a publishing house even. I think it's very beneficial to see that the types of tasks they do, what they're responsible for, readers, right, as I've covered, right. And yeah, so it's a really great section they have. Absolutely love this section too. Yeah. And yeah. So I think episode 8 I covered that in episode 7. So yeah, I listened back to episode 7 on what's it like being a poetry reader for a literary magazine, and then episode 8 a little bit. But again, every place is a little bit different in terms of hours, and the responsibilities. Some of them have similarities, of course, in some roles with the same title. But yeah, so a great way to find opportunities, if you're looking to join a Lit Mag Journal Press, or if you have some downtime and spare time, and you want to allocate that to helping a publisher, even that's awesome. It can be a great, experience. It can be something you put on your resume, things like that, if you end up getting the role, right? So, yeah, definitely, totally bookmark CLMP. It's has a lot of really cool pages. So they do have, listen in archives. So this is where they have a collection of multimedia recordings of past CLMP offerings, even some info sessions I think they've done in the past that they've shared too, on, I think it was Vimeo, right? So yeah, so they share, the firecracker award ceremonies. So those are cool to watch, and yeah, to hear reading events even, and the conversations, yeah. So I think that's I've covered news and features. I've covered about independent publishing programs and opportunities. CLMP has a also contest code of ethics, right? So I would recommend reading through this also if you're going to start your own, literary magazine or press. You want to really, make sure you are, running your lit mag and journal and press, complying with CLMP standards and recommendations. Absolutely. So one thing, that I think CLMP also stresses is to have, blind anonymous judging and things like that, right? And fairness, right? So yeah, we conceal cover letters for our reader rounds and things like that, right? For example, and I've showed you examples of few lit magazine journals that do concealed reads and things like that, because I think it ensures fairness, right? Because you're focusing on the work at hand, and then only towards the very end, right? Then you get all that information, you verify it, and yeah, reveal that. So I think yeah, it's beneficial to have your reading team not see the cover letters or identifying information on submissions. I really would encourage that, especially. Yeah, but totally, so not every single call needs to be like that. And so yeah, so for contests and some calls, I think that is absolutely important to do. Anonymous blind judging and reading. No identifying information that's visible. And yeah, so yeah, you can scroll through and just read that through. I won't read their code of ethics, but so to become a CLMP member, right? Again, they have criteria that you have to meet. So when I started my Lit Mag Journal Press, and this may be a recap again, but initially, right, we started off. I had converted my pen name account, right, to start to intake submissions, right, and stuff, and just had an email address and a Google form. But eventually, to become part of the CLMP membership, right, I got our own domain, right, dippitylitmag.com. I cleared our website off of anything tied to my pen name in terms of my publications or anything like that. And I redesigned our website. I did a couple revisions of our website design, I think two or three. And yeah, so it looks completely different from when it started, and yeah. And yeah, so you just want to be mindful about that. If you're a founding editor of a late marriage journal, right, you don't want to, have any of your own personal work there at all. It just should be the focus of the work you're publishing, right? The contributors, those submitting, the acceptances and all of that, right? That should be the focal and spotlight. And totally, it's okay. Some it's okay for on social media channels like to reshare like team announcements or things like that, like hey, we're just sharing some accomplishments on our team. Maybe they got published in a place or got an award, or it's okay to do things like that, or to share some things, some cool things about in your team members bios and mastheads, stuff like that's fine. But yeah, you just want to be mindful about that. And yeah, and yeah, to meet the membership requirements, right? Yeah, so it's a good idea to get your own domain name. And some publishers, right, they have Substacks and different setups and structures, right? But I think it looks more professional when you have your own domain name, of course, right, and no appendages there. And yeah, yeah. So yeah, so the member benefits, right? This is the benefits section. So you can see here if you have a budget under 50,000, which most do, I think only very few lit mags and journals and presses in the world, to my knowledge, I think are, anywhere near this, the 50,000, 350,000 range, but your annual dues, if you were in that range, would be 225. Under 50,000, as I stated, right, would be $125 a year. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And they do have, a full membership, for those who have published at least one issue or title, prior to applying, and publish at least one issue or book title per year on an ongoing basis. And associate membership is a single year for those who intend to begin publishing soon, right? So associate members may renew as full members once publishing has started. So that's a one-time annual fee as of 2025, $50. So yeah, yeah, and you want to read the eligibility guidelines, right? So all CLMP members are primarily English or Spanish language publishers that are primarily literary in nature. Over 50% of work published is fiction, poetry, creative nonfiction, drama, and or literary reviews. Do not charge authors to publish their work. For example, hybrid publishers, vanity publishers. So yeah, no astronomically high fees and things like that, or charging people to be published at all. Charge no reading fee or a nominal reading fee for standard submissions. Do not primarily publish self-published work. Over 50% of content published, again, must consist of work by authors not on staff. And yeah, do not primarily publish children's literature and or children's work. So overall, editorial, literary, design, and production quality will be considered, right? And applicants may be either nonprofit or for-profit and may be located anywhere in the world as long as they are mission-driven to publish literature. It says no non-US publishers aren't eligible for re-grant opportunities. So yeah, and yeah, so you just want to be mindful about that. When I had became a member, right? We had that was the time where I got our own domain name. I revamped our website. I put our mission statement very visible and did all of that, to comply with their requirements. And they're like, "Yep, looks good." And then we got on board with the membership. We got up and running with our submittable, on the $29 month plan. We also paid our annual, membership fee, $125, right? So yeah, you do save quite a bit of money, if you're going to use submittable, but you don't have to use submittable. Again, it's not the only submission man system out there. I think, again, a lot of founding editors that I know and friends express some, again, frustrations I mentioned with submittable in terms of some of the limitations, how many calls you can have open, and some of the other things. So I really love Subfolio, and I love all of that. My feedback has been taken into account, in terms of Subfolio and the features, and everything. So it's really, I think, a great submission management system alternative to Submittable. Subfolio is. So would highly recommend you listen back to the first Subfolio episode I did. I think it was, I don't remember all the numbers, guys, off the top of my head. Sorry, but I'm trying to remember it. So I think it was episode 36. I'm just covering the plan, my initial thoughts about Subfolio, sharing its existence again, and reasons why I moved. And there are episodes where I covered, alternatives to Submittable. And episode 56 was where I covered, which submission management systems I would recommend, and my thoughts. I have a list breakdown also on the LitMag Lab Substack covering the pros and cons, even mentioning, right, the discounts that CLMP gives on some of the submission management systems out there. Yeah. So that's about it. They have, I think, internship section, right? So CLMP offers competitive internships even, right? Too. Yeah, I think that's awesome as well. And yeah, so internships are offered to those, I believe, preferably in New York, the location of their office, or Portland, Oregon. I think they do have some staff that may be located remotely too. I could be wrong, but yeah. Anyways, that's awesome. So CMP does a lot, absolutely. So I love the directory again, and love the the jobs of publishers pages, and yeah. And the roundup newsletters they do are very informational, and I love seeing new publishers and coming into contact with others, that are part of the CLMP membership. So yeah, the event section. So that's one I haven't covered yet. I know this is a super long episode, but it's a lot to cover. So again, you can see some of the events they have, right? The Editors of Color meetup, that's coming up here, right? October 29th, 2025. How to pitch, right? An info session. They have conferences and events, book festivals that they inform others, right, that they're going to be at, right? The Brooklyn Book Festival, for example, I mentioned, the Portland Book Festival. Obviously, many are aware of AWP, right? And things like that. So yeah. Yeah, so the Indie Lit Fair again, right? That was back in May 3rd, 2025. But a lot of really great book festivals and fairs Yeah. So they have a CMP's annual benefit to from 2024 and some other events that they, discuss on these pages, right? So this book and literary magazine fairs page is very useful too. If you're someone who likes table events or book festivals or things of that nature, this page would be probably one you would want to absolutely take a look at and check out. So they have it organized by month, and yeah, you can see there are even ones listed here from London, across Arizona, across the United States, Massachusetts, California, New York, Iowa, the various focuses of some of these book fairs and book shows. Yeah, very cool, So yeah, I absolutely love zine fest and book festivals and art fairs, it's really cool. There are some I never knew existed, just reading the list, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So some have, registration fees, some are free to attend maybe. And yeah, so I think these events are really cool, yeah, so just, take some time to look at this if you're going to start your own lit mag journal press, I think book festivals again, and table events are a great way again to share, your lit mag or journal or press even further, and the publications, and the series. Totally great marketing events, great way to market further and connect with others. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it. I probably didn't go through every single page, but there will absolutely be some pages you come into contact with, that are member only access. I was just covering, predominantly the publicly accessible pages, but yeah. So yeah, again, very cool. They have even like spoken word festivals here listed, for teens, and yeah, some really great, international literary festivals listed, and shows. So yeah, it is absolutely a great resource. Highly recommend you bookmark this page. Stay in the loop on things in terms of news. Subscribe to their newsletter. The Indie Lit update. It's very beneficial, and you can even, they again have advertising opportunities. I think through their newsletter and things like that, right? And yeah, and others can donate to CLMP, and things like that. So yeah, advertisements again, are that are here, right? And a lot of places do this. Poets and Writers has advertisement opportunities. Poets.org has advertising opportunities. So CMP members get a discount for advertising, and non-members, right? There's it looks like a $60 increase there. Yeah. So yeah, advertising rates they have here, right? You can see on my screen. I won't go through all of this, but they have, various guidelines in terms of advertising, right? And they have to obviously approve your advertisement, right? So yeah, I think that's cool. They have a sample, newsletter of, the advertising specs and things like that. So yeah, yeah, so just an example of like what one looks like. They have an example, but yeah, they have a very full newsletters that they give out, packed with information, updates, and new CLMP members, and meetings, info sessions, all of that. So yeah, there's a lot of really useful resources on their website, and you can really stay informed. I think it's so important, when you're starting your lit mag or journal or press. And yeah, I think that whole community driven aspect is really important again. And yeah, so check it out, yeah, so I hope this episode helped you. I was just discussing, CLMP. You get again just some great discounts, through the membership, and you come into contact with learning about a lot of platforms and services even, and yeah, and you may even form friendships totally, with some fellow editors of lit magazine journals, and really get into a whole great knowledge exchange and supportive community, absolutely. So yeah, that's all I have to say. They have, again, once you become a member, right, and you're a publisher, right, so you get a member login access and things like that too, so it's very, very useful, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can, of course, look into joining, right? They have an application form, And yeah, again, I covered episode 16, the benefits, a recap of what I did here, but just wanted to give you a tour of their website, some of the pages and awards and the news sections and the newsletters that they do are phenomenal, right? Very organized, I think. I absolutely do love the newsletters they do and the discussions, absolutely. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So they have events that are upcoming here. I was just looking and things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope this helped you. Again, they have a search right too on their page, which is nice. You can easily find things. And yeah, so yeah, again, I shared on this podcast a few of the other episodes you should check out and listen to. Would recommend listening to the earlier Q&A portion of the series, me sharing my experience starting up Dippity Lit Mag. And there are other episodes, Q&A episodes sprinkled in between the Lit Mag and Journal and press shares and under the slide episodes and spotlight episodes I've done thus far. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I took I didn't cover a bunch of, it's October. I didn't cover a bunch of like Halloween or horror themed, calls or lit mags and journals, but I tried to do a couple. So totally listen back to those episodes, you'll find them. And yeah, I hope this series is helping you. If it is, totally subscribe, give it a thumbs up on whichever platform you're listening, or yeah, totally. And yeah, before we go here, just want to say a few more things, and then I promise I'll sign off. Yeah, in addition, to the other things I mentioned in this podcast, right? When you join the CLMP membership, right, they put you on right the mailing list, and a lot of really great information is exchanged. And you can see the other questions are being asked in the discussion groups and things like that, and even come across even some really stellar nomination events each year outside of just again the typical ones, push cart, best of the net, right? There are several other nomination events out there, right? So it helps have reminders on those to see the discussions around those, or to be informed about even invites to new events. A new one I found out about just recently was the best spiritual literature editorial nomination window. So I think it's open through November 1st. And that's the first time I ever, heard about that one. I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't think we're eligible to enter. I could be wrong, but I'll look into it either way. But because, we're doing a relaunch at the Lit Mag I run, right? So Dippity, right? So I don't think we'll be eligible this year, particularly because we haven't released our relaunch issue quite yet or anything like that. But we've done, online publications and issues and published some chapbooks this year predominantly. So yeah, in either case, I think that's very cool. The best, spiritual literature editorial nomination. So things like that, right? And even last year there was like a nomination event I heard about, and other ones out there totally. And it's very, very helpful to be on the CLMP membership mailing list, absolutely, and to join. Yeah. And even if you don't, right, they have a great, again, newsletter, right, for indie lit updates, which are really helpful as well. But yeah, definitely, I'll put links again to the site and what I discussed. And yeah, so it was more so a recap episode. And I just want to say again, don't forget that you can also support TLMP, right? Give a donation, even if you're not, let's say, a publisher or just coming across this episode and you want to support their mission, even, right? They are always, accepting donations, and you can make an anonymous donation to CLMP. Same thing, a lot of lit mags and journals, right? And presses, they are, staying afloat. Some absolutely because of donations, totally. So every bit helps, and CLMP, gets donations every year. Of course, all of the, contest award entry fees and even the membership fees that lit mags and journals and presses are paying, right, for the membership, right? They all go towards, CLMP's operations and all of the events they do to support publishers and partnerships and things of that nature, and more community events and cool things in the future. So totally, totally check that out. And yeah, so Again, this was predominantly a recap episode. I just wanted to show you the pages again. And yeah, so absolutely, CLMP again is very beneficial if you're looking for, let's say, technical assistant workshops, roundtables, consultation, and their resource library, right? And their database of publishing contacts, funders and consultants, all of that, right? And yeah, it's as they state here on their site, as I'm quoting this off right again. So working to build bridges between them and the many communities that they care about, literature through networking events and other programs, right? And yeah. I think it's great, for readers, writers, booksellers, as stated, totally, librarians, translators, educators, who really are passionate about literary publishing, being, again, as they state here, diverse and vibrant. So important, again. So yeah, really stellar work that CLMP does, and yeah. So I would again really recommend you look into um, getting a CLMP membership. There's information again under join. And the application form, the benefits, the requirements. Of course, when you interact with CLMP, right, and you submit an application, they'll of course assess your publication and everything, and they'll maybe tell you, hey, if you correct this, maybe address this on your website, or it could be your mission statement or something. Maybe you need to have visible, right, for like things like the ISSN application process, right, for a lot of online magazines and publications. So that, for instance, right, they require that you have visible, right, your location, or of where your lit mag or journal is located, right, or the publication, yeah, the city and state, or yeah. So just an example, right? So yeah, you want to be very mindful about when you're starting your publication, have everything organized. And yeah, so that's why I'm covering a couple different examples of various lit mags and journals. I'm sharing my comments and thoughts. I by no means have a secret sauce formula for creating a successful publication, but I think it's cool to be able to spotlight some places that have grown really fast in a short amount of time, some places that have been around quite some time, or even to cover some places that are just starting up, right? So yeah, and to just share that with you guys and my experiences in the lit mag world, I think it's beneficial. The whole aspect again of sharing and communicating in the community and all of that. So yeah, again, very stellar. And yeah, so look into it, bookmark this page, again, bookmark it, because it's absolutely a great resource. And yeah, they've been around a very, very long time, helping lit mags, journals, and presses. And the team at CLMP is absolutely, the interactions I've had with everyone, to date, since we joined the membership. I think it was back in 2023, right? Nothing but awesome. So yeah, take care, guys, and have awesome days ahead. I'm officially signing off now. So I just do these episodes when I can. If they're helping you, totally feel free to comment on whichever platform you're listening to. And yeah, I'll give you guys, I think, time to catch up. Maybe, I don't know how soon I'll be able to do more episodes, but we're getting closer to the end of the year here. So 82 episodes to date. So I hope they are helping you. I hope you're enjoying them, or getting something out of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So check out CLMP, another great resource, for staying in the loop on things. Also would recommend, if you don't see episodes for a while from me, definitely subscribe to Lit Mag News as well, ran by Becky again. That Substack is very, very beneficial, I think, to a lot of publishers and writers and poets and submitters, absolutely. And several other, cool publications out there in the Substack, community as well, I must say. Lit Mag Lounge and Lit Mag Love are other ones that come to my mind. And of course, the Lit Mag Lab, right? So I hope my podcast is helping you, and the series I'm doing. I haven't typed out a bunch of articles to date, but I was going to hopefully do more in the future, and we'll see about maybe doing some more, typed out versions to accompany some of these episodes for you guys. I've done a couple, around some of the topics already, but not a bunch. So you can typically find, links in the descriptions to everything, and then some PS notes too. So definitely read those. I try to update those when possible. And by no means I'm going to be able to cover every single lit mag or journal existence. There are tons I'm a fan of course, Ryan and Presses even. So just trying to share as much as possible, when I can. So take care, guys. Yeah.